Hey, y'all, peace and blessings, man. Before I start this podcast, I just want to give a shout out and a thanks, man, to my family, man. My family, when I first come home, my brother Lamar, tremendous job. Him and his wife were the first ones that gave me clothes. He got me signed up to get my blood work. He got me signed up to get my teeth fixed, my teeth done, to get my eyes checked out. He got me signed up for all the most important stuff. Then I got my uncle Chris Brown. He was the first one to put me in the vehicle. He put me in the Blue Demon, man. Unc, I love you for that, man. And I appreciate that because without that car, I wouldn't have the car that I have, and I couldn't get back and forth to work, man. And my cousins right here, Kim Parker, Tina Parker. Look, I love y'all to death. Y'all gave me money, clothes, everything I needed when I first come home. It was like my family did the most when I came home. My aunties, Auntie Barbara, Auntie Lita, y'all did the most, man. I couldn't have done it without y'all. And I appreciate y'all. If I missed anybody in my family for helping me out when I first come home, please forgive me. But the ones I mentioned, look, I love y'all and I love the rest of y'all. Peace and blessings. I hope y'all enjoy the podcast, man. Peace.
Gods and children of the Most High God. The scripture also says that God made man in his image and after his likeness. This means that he placed a part of himself in you and I.
What's happening, everybody? This is Leroy Harris. Most people know me as Luke Mon the Wise. This is the first episode of my podcast called Dynamic Talking Points. As in perfect form, I must introduce who I am. As a question, who am I as a person? I consider myself a family man, a loyal man, a dynamic man. I love what I love who I love. I'm also good, bad, and ugly. So you're not going to always get everything that's good for me. You're not going to get the bad all the time. You're not going to get the ugly all the time. But notice, as a human being, I am all three. Question might be asked, why am I doing this podcast? Well, I'm doing this podcast because I believe that there are men and women that have come home from prison that are successful. And I think that these stories need to be told to everybody so that other men and women that's coming out of prison can know that they can actually survive and thrive in society if only they would apply themselves. So the men and women coming on this podcast is going to be explaining to us what tools that they use to actually keep themselves and their minds focused on becoming a citizen, being a citizen, and surviving and thriving in our day society after doing 20, 30, 40 years in prison. My incarceration story is deep. 14 years old, I jumped off the porch. Went through a few things in the household, my brother and I. Those things forced me and him out in the streets. So from 14 to 18, I was selling drugs. I was committing crime. I was doing deviant behavior. At 18 years old, drug deal went bad. I ended up in court facing a life without parole sentence because a man lost his life. Worst thing in my life I ever could be a part of. So from that time on, I got convicted of first-degree murder. When I got convicted of first-degree murder, I did 35 years in prison. There came a time where they changed the laws about juveniles being released. That was for the 17-year-olds. So I never forget, I was on the rock one day and a 17-year-old juvenile named Victor X, one of my comrades. He came to me, he said, Leroy X, he said, man, listen, man. He said, you know the law, you a certified paralegal. They haven't changed the law as far as 18-year-olds yet, but why don't you file your paperwork right now? I said, man, it's at least 2 years from now before they do some of the 18-year-olds. So he says, no, man, file your stuff right now because once you file it now, 2 years come up, when they get to it, you're going to be one of the first ones released, man. Trust me. So I followed what he said, man. I filed my paperwork 2 years ahead of time. My judge held on to my paperwork for 2 years and denied it. 6 days after she denied it, they came out with People versus Parks and the Michigan Supreme Court. My brother Victor X came running out the law library telling me about the case and showed it to me. When he showed it to me, in that case, it said it is unconstitutional to give an 18-year-old life without parole without a mitigating hearing. And I was like, whoa. So I went right back into my judge with a reconsideration. And about 18, 19 days later, I went to the law library, picked up my legal mail. And the first thing I seen was this judge said she agreed with me and that my life without parole sentence was vacated. The happiest day in my life. So my point is that regardless of what sentence that any of us had in prison, there's always a way out, man. There's always a way out. And from that point, my SATO attorneys, they came to see me. And my SATO attorney, Maya Menlo, she said specifically this. She said, Mr. Harris, she said, I'm only here because of your own ingenuity. I'm here because of what you did 2 years ago. I didn't get you in the court. You got yourself in the court. So then she said, and you made it easy for us. And I said, how did I do that? She said, you got 15 years clean in your record. So your record shows a trajectory in prison to where you start out even, you went up in violence and mischief, then you came down and evened out. She said that's what the courts actually look for in a person that's actually growing out of crime and deviancy. Powerful. So now I got out May 23rd, 2023, May 23rd, I got out. So when I come home, yeah, I had some struggles. I done been kicked out of family members' houses. I done had to stay in my car for a certain amount of time. You know, from those points on, I had other people in my life that was actually helping me get the things I needed to be successful. When you come home, most people are gonna need, if you come home to nothing, you're gonna need a village of people to actually help you. And I had that. You had my brothers like Eric X, they know him as Bodine. I had DeAndre X. I had the brother, what's his name? Clue X. So these are all the brothers that helped me when I first came home. The brothers from the inside sent me $2,000 to help me get off my feet, man. I had people like the, what's that? Catholic Social Services. Had Catholic Social Services help me. My pastor, Pastor Easley. Pastor Easley was the first one when I walked in his shop. Brother Marvin Cotton, too. Marvin Cotton took me down there, walked in his shop. He seen my state shoes on. Man, this pastor took his own shoes off his feet, top 10s. Told me to hand him my state shoes. He took my state shoes, threw them in the garbage, gave me his own shoes off his feet. Then told me to come back the next day and he was going to have a bag of clothes for me. So he suited and booted me with suits, gave me clothes, pants, shirts, belts, everything for free. He just set me out, man. That was one of the most powerful things I experienced coming from anybody since I've actually been home. But it's been more people like my auntie and my uncle, Greg Harden, Shalia Harden. They trained me in quality control. They helped me tremendously. Michigan Works, Desi Johnson. She helped me tremendously. She was the one that helped me actually get my company up. When I first got out, I sat down with her and she told me, she said, Mr. Harris, they want to put you in a factory. She said, you don't belong in a factory. She said, your communication skills are off the charts. You need to be in the classroom teaching some people. So she said, come up with an idea of an LLC or a nonprofit and I'll help you start it. That way you can make people pay you for what you know. And it happened exactly like that. 2 weeks after that, she called me back. We went online. She helped me do everything. And today, almost more than a year and a half later, my company is up and running. It's up and running. So my point is, I'm telling you is this. We doing this podcast so that people can know that when you're released from prison, there's life after incarceration. Always remember that there is life after incarceration. What did I learn in the 35 years I was in prison? And to keep it real funky, I learned how to protect myself when I was in prison. And I want to say something about that because most people don't know this. Before I was convicted of murder, but I was not a killer. When I went to prison, I was taught how to kill in prison. I hope you listen to what I'm saying, because most guys that go to prison, they learn how to be deviantly 10 times harder while they're in prison, man. So prison becomes a good place for a guy or a bad place for a guy, depending upon his response to the prison lifestyle that he's into when he's in prison, depending on that. But my point is this. I learned a lot of skills. The first 15 years of my time in prison, I was a bad dude. I was constantly an acid. I was constantly getting in trouble. I was constantly stabbing people. I was constantly going to level 5s, level 6s. I was in it all. It wasn't until the last 8 to 10 years of my bit, I finally leave level 5, go into a level 2. My little brother write me, Lamar X. He said, man, you the smartest dude I know, man. He said, why you on these level 5s and these level 6s? Why you keep hurting people and all this stuff, man? So in my mind, I was like, chump, I do this so you will be safe, man. You know what I mean? My name make you safe. This is what I said to myself. But then I had to come down off that high horse. And he told me, he said, man, listen. He said, my people going to be there. Chance for Life going to be there. I want you to join Chance for Life. So I said, all right. Chance for Life came there. I met Tom Adams. I met Jessica Taylor. And I had a talk with Tom. And he told me, he said, man, Lamar is my man. He said, I'm getting Lamar, bringing Lamar home. So that intrigued me just from that. You got a man telling me he finna bring my brother home. So I was like, okay. So I went up under their training for 2 years. I became a certified mediator, certified in conflict resolution, certified in critical thinking, certified in ethical reasoning. I came certified in all these skills. So boom, those skills helped me to actually navigate through prison. But it just wasn't those skills. I had joined the Nation of Islam when I first come to prison. So my first experience with real skills was under the tutorship of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So I learned from his study guides how to be a man. I learned from his study guides how not to be a deviant in my life and in other people's life. I learned from his study guides how to be a person that actually takes control of my life and of my destiny. So it was really the teaching of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad through the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that put me on a trajectory that actually changed my life when I was in prison. Later on in prison, before I came home, I was actually given a job as a tutor for the violence prevention programs. Yeah, they hired me to be a tutor, and I had natural life in prison. So imagine you got a guy, one of the most violent guys on the yard, changes his life in prison, becomes a tutor for the violence prevention program, teaching guys that's going home how to practice violence prevention skills when they get home. Point is, when I was in prison, I changed my life, man. And this is how I'm able to teach these skills when I'm home right now. Right now, I have my own business. My own business is called Dynastic Ministries. And we are a group of certified mediators, conflict resolution, restorative justice, ethical reasoning, and critical thinking. That's what I do for an actual living. So I hope you guys enjoy these podcasts, and you can look for guys and women to be on this podcast to be powerful people. You know, these people are going to give you their experiences and their stories. And the goal is to also be able to give guys that's coming home certain resources that you're going to need in order to be successful, in order to not just survive out here, but to also thrive. I'm going to leave you with this. We are Dynamic Talking Points. Peace.
This is the black man Luke Mon talking to you.